Part 5. It is said in one scripture, how many different relatives you had, how many relatives, like husband, wife, brothers, friend, labdho tyakta, that you received and you have left, that many grains of sand does not exist in the river Ganges. It is said. Have you seen how much sand is there on the banks of Ganga? How many swajan, how many relatives and friends we have received and left in our previous bodies is more than the number of grains of sand on the banks of Ganga. Not just in human body, but in all different varieties of life, as insects, trees, these animals. How many in all those bodies? How many relatives and friends we've had? There's not enough sand in the Ganga. So in this life, the number of relatives or friends is nothing compared to those millions and billions of trillions of relatives. This 10 or 20 relatives from this life is no big deal. In this way, this is the kind of relationships we have in our lives. So they're saying that this Maya Baddha Jeev, the living entity, cannot remember his own activities, but Bhagwan, the Supreme Lord, is seeing since time immemorial every living entity's activities, and he will continue to see forever. And all these bodies, who is giving? Ishwarena upasthatitam devam bhogadicha. Ishwar, the Supreme Lord, gives us all these bodies. Previously, the Supreme Lord has given us body, awarded us body, and decides what food we'll get. Before he even gives us a body, he's already decided what we will eat. Those who has made us, the person that has made a slit on our face, will also give us our meal. If he didn't arrange for our meals, he would not have made this slit on our face, the mouth. He has already arranged for all the food, that this kind of food, or fruit, or grains is present, and you can eat that to maintain your body. Everywhere you see people are eating, drinking. But the only thing is they're not eating according to what the Lord wants them to eat. They're eating the foodstuffs produced by the Supreme Lord, but they're not eating what the Lord allows them to eat. One man once said, if we don't eat the sheep and the goats, the sheep and goat will take over the world, so we have to eat these animals. There will be no space to walk. This is all useless talk actually. Everyone dies, and to eat them there are other animals waiting. If an animal dies, then without invitation you see so many other animals immediately arrive, because that is their food. You leave the dead animal on the path, animals in the day and at night, the fox, etc., they will just come uninvited and finish their meal. It is wrong to think that if we don't kill the animals, they will take over the whole world and there is no space to walk. This is just an excuse. Some say that if we don't catch fish and eat them, there will be so many fish, they will be over flooding the rivers and the water, but actually this is just an excuse. They're going against the will of the Lord. We should know what is the food for the humans, and that we should eat. At least we should know that much, that the Lord knows everything. Even if we try and ask some Brahmana, some learned person to read Bhrigu Samhita and ask him, and maybe he will tell you for one life, but what is the use? At least just understand. There is no need to find out what you were in your last life and this. At least understand the Supreme Lord, He knows what you were before. And the Supreme Lord is the person who has awarded us this body. So why not fall at His lotus feet? And pray that wherever I take my next birth, I may take my birth in the family of devotees and do devotional service. We will always get a body. And if we surrender to Lord and we pray to Him, then He gives us a very beautiful body. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a story of Vritrasur. Vritrasur prays to Lord, Hey Krishna, wherever I take my birth in this sansar chakra, please let me be where there are your devotees, and I should be their friends. I should always be a friend of the devotees. Our birth and death is in the hands of the Lord. When we surrender to the Lord, He will forgive our sinful activities. Sarva dharman parityaja mokshe shyami masuchaha. The Lord says, do not worry. You have made mistakes. It is natural to make mistakes. But you give up all varieties of religion. You come to my shelter and I will forgive you for all those activities. You will not have to suffer for those. So as a human being, we should learn all these things. Not that we should think that, oh, I don't remember anything, so there is no past life. This is just an excuse. Why I should accept, they say. Why I should accept? I don't remember anything. Who knows? Rascal, you don't know what nobody knows. The Supreme Lord knows. Just because you don't know. This is why we give importance to devotional service. The human beings are so forgetful, that we don't remember anything, and yet so puffed up. Just like before I said, while we're sleeping, we forget 40 years of our life. 40 years of our life we totally forget, but even while awake, we're completely useless. Others are telling, wake up, do something. So what if somebody sleeps for that many years? What he will do in his human form of life? So as soon as one wakes up, one should start doing bhajan. So after saying this, Yamadutas are explaining in the next. This topic is very philosophical. Some people do not like it very much, but this is very important, and that is why I have to explain it. Even though this pravachan is given by Yamadutas, and the listeners are the Vishnu Dutas, but we think this is just as important. This pravachan is just as important for us. They're saying Panchabhi, number 50. The Yamadutas are saying that the living entity Panchabhi Kurute Swarthan, by these 5 working senses, 5 senses of perception and 5 objects of senses is the mind. Hand, feet, walking, genitals, 5 senses, Panch Vedat Panchabhi, and by 5 he gets senses of perception. Sound, form, touch, aroma and taste is the 5 objects of senses. Working senses are voice, arms, legs, anus and genitals. And 5 hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting and feeling. And man, the mind, this is 17. Ekastu Shodashena Trin Swayam Sapt Dasho Snute. So, with all these things, they are 16, and with the mind, it's 17. So the living entities, with all these, enjoys the material world alone. The living entity enjoys 3 kinds of situations with all these. The Jeev is the 17th, sorry. The mind is the 16th and the Jiva is the 17th. Jeev, the living entity. And this, and the living entity enjoys these 3 kinds of situation, namely happiness, distress and mixed. So I have to move on quickly because it's a long chapter. Number 51. In this way, this subtle body, it is 16 parts and 3 modes of material nature. 16 parts, 3 modes of material nature. And since when, if somebody asks since when, Anadi means since time immemorial, the living entity has this subtle body. And this is the subtle body only that puts the person in happiness, distress, in lamentation, jubilation, fear, misery, etc. If a person keeps his 5 senses and his mind in control, then he is free from harsh, shok, bhaya and misery. Jubilation, lamentation, fear and misery, he becomes free. But generally, one himself becomes in control of the 5 senses in the mind. A human being, just like a little silkworm, makes a home for himself and he gets caught in it. Just like a silkworm makes a little home for himself from his silk, and he does not make a door. So once he finishes making the home, he gets caught inside, and he starts getting tortured because he cannot come out, and then he dies inside. So the humans, when they make a house, first they make a door or window to come out. But this silkworm, he is so unintelligent, he does not even make a door. So the humans these days are just like a silkworms. They get married, they have a family, but they do not make a door from which they can sometimes come to the temple in Janmashtami or Sundays, or even make time to go to Vrindavan in Kartik. When you ask them, they say, "Oh, I am very busy." He himself encloses himself in the karma, and he's not able to get out. Sometimes people make excuse that I have wife, children, how can I leave them and come? Then why did you get married? You married. Nobody forced you to get married. You can bring them. You can engage them also. So once you're in family life, you have to at least make a door that you can at least visit the temple once a week. Or if you're in India, to visit Vrindavan in Kartik. One should take out time to do these things. At least if 6 days they don't open the door, 1 day a week they can open their door and try to get out of their household. One has time to do everything, to take care of his child, his family, but to do a little japa is very difficult. How can I do this? As if this is the most useless activity. He does so many activities, so many things he does, and so much time he has for sense gratification. But we ask him to chant, he cannot. He has closed his door, just like the silkworm. And there is natural gunas, rag, dvesh, envy, anger. Even when he's sleeping, he's doing karma. Even in his dream, he's doing something. Without work, he's not even there for a moment. Sanskar is so powerful. Sometimes he is in his subtle body, and sometimes in a nice body, sometimes not such nice body. And this is according to his sanskar. Sometimes as a woman, sometimes as a man. Same soul sometimes takes birth as mother and father, as means as male or female. And any time it can turn, the tables can turn. It is said that in the next birth, about 95% women will become men. It is said in one of the Shastra, 95% women will become men and 99% men will become women. If a man becomes a woman in his next life, is considered a lot more suffering. But actually to perform devotional service, Two, from the viewpoint of bhakti, a woman's body is not a loss. Actually, a woman's body is better for devotional service because they have a softer heart. Gyan, Vairagya, Vivek is male. Bhakti Maharani is female. Renunciation, knowledge, and Vivek is male. In one scripture, in Ramcharitmanas, it is said, to do bhakti is very easy for women. Just like these days, many devotees, they want to become a gopi in their next life. So they may want to become a woman as a gopi to serve Krishna, but women are already, they can already be a gopi, just like gopi. They already have a woman's form. So for a woman, it is good for devotional service. It is no loss. Otherwise, to be a woman is a loss. These creepers are considered to be female, and the tree is considered to be male. You see, here where there is a creeper growing, the tree slightly bows down and embraces the creeper. Even amongst the trees there is affection between male and female. And the creeper winds around the tree. And finally, the Vishnu Dutas are asking. They're asking that for the living entity, this sansar, this cycle of birth and death, does it ever disappear? Does it ever stop? Number 55. This, since the living entity is associated with material nature, he is in an awkward position. But if in the human form of life, he is taught how to associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotee, then he can become free from the cycle of birth and death. Yamadutas are accepting that by modes of material nature one is bound, and by the association of the Lord one becomes free. But they do not know the glories of devotional service. They know that he called Narayan, but they know that he called Narayan for his son. And they do not understand the glory of devotional service. This the Yamadutas did not learn in their classes. They're saying he used to be such a nice Brahmana in the beginning, named Ajamil, and he studied all the Vedic literature. He was a reservoir of good character, good conduct, and good qualities. And he used to do all the Vedic injunctions. He was so mild and gentle, and he kept his mind and senses under control. And he was always truthful. He knew how to chant the Vedic mantras, and he was always very pure. He was respectful to his spiritual master, the fire god, guests, and his parents. He was so free from false prestige. He was upright. He was benevolent to all living entities. He was well behaved. He would never speak nonsense or envy to anyone. But now he has become so fallen. The Yamadutas, they did not know. They knew the bhajan of Lord, the Supreme Lord,
वाणी से भी बोलते हैं तो साक्षात
was
कृष्ण का स्पर्श करते हैं, कान से सुनते हैं तो उनका स्पर्श,
to relieve them
और इसी
from this cycle of birth and death, but they did not know that chanting the holy name itself was bhajan.
स्पर्श का अनुभव करते हैं। प्रकृति के संग में जब तक हैं आसक्त हैं,
So the Yamadutas are describing his all the good qualities Ajamil had before, and they're describing all his sinful activities, and this is spoken by Shukadev Goswami, and Parikshit Maharaj is hearing with great attention, and Yamadutas are also hearing with great attention how Ajamil was such a great personality and how he became so fallen. Yamadutas are very angry. Therefore, they're showing, they're indicating with their hands to Vishnu Dutas again and again this Ajamil lying on the bed. They're very angry with their lips, sometimes biting with their teeth out of anger, because they're not able to take him away. Now they're explaining his good qualities, how good he was. He had all good qualities of a Brahmana. This rascal you're trying to take away from me, he has fallen from such a great elevated position. I am Bhi. Immediately we will take him away to our city. This definitely he is very sinful. He used to hear from his spiritual master, practice. It is a great quality to hear from a spiritual master. In the human form, one should hear Shastra, scripture. From there he gets knowledge of his duties as a human being. Otherwise he forgets in the force of Maya. He used to be alay, means a reservoir of sheel, of good character, means to be humble in front of the elders, the elder brother, parents, guru. It's called good character. Even if a human doesn't have any other good qualities, but if he is sheel, humble, that is a very great quality. And if some person has got great education, PhD, he has got a big position, beautiful body, wealth, in this, because of that, if he gives up his humbleness, then he has no good quality, nothing to be attractive of. So this Ajamil was Shilalai, was a reservoir of all good qualities. Sripad, one Acharya has written that here in this word Drita Vrita means he has taken a vow of Drita. Of all the vratas, Brahmacharya Vrata is the greatest. He was a Brahmachari. He was a perfect Brahmachari. He used to follow the rules and regulations of celibacy as a perfect Brahmachari. And he was mridul, soft-hearted, very mild, very soft-hearted. He wasn't udan and karkash. And dantaha? Dantaha means he had control on his control on his senses. Even by mistake, he would never turn on the television. He would not hear anything bad with his ears. He would not engage his eyes in anything sinful. Sometimes in a katha, some sentences, we should understand their meaning. Sometimes at the end, people ask, Swamiji, in those days there was no television. So one should understand the meaning, means that he didn't engage in eyes and ears in useless sense gratification.
समान रूप से दिया है वस्तु है, लेकिन हम लोग बांटने में गलती करते थे।
So one time I was saying that the Supreme Lord has given in equal amounts for everybody. He's provided enough for everybody. But here, some people take more and some less.
मान लीजिए मेरे 4 पुत्र,
Suppose I was giving an example, and I was saying, suppose I have 4 sons, and I said, all 4 sons I sent 4 kurtas, 4 kurta. Suppose one son takes 2 kurta, so another son wouldn't get a kurta, right? So if I have 4 sons, I told them, and I sent them 4 kurtas, and one took 2, so one of the others didn't get. So at the end of the katha, one man came. One of my servants told me that one man was asking another devotee, I heard Maharaj is a brahmachari sannyasi, but here he was saying he has 4 sons. So then the devotee explained to him, Maharaj is giving example. Suppose Maharaj was giving, he said no. Maharaj said. Man lo in Hindi means suppose, and also means understand. So this man was saying, Maharaj said, man lo, I have 4 sons. Understand, I have 4 sons. But the same word has another meaning, which Maharaj was trying to say, suppose I have 4 sons. So one should understand what. So one devotee. So this person finally came to my servant and he said, can you please tell me, does Maharaj actually have 4 sons? So my disciple told him, no, Maharaj is a sannyasi brahmachari, he doesn't have any sons. Then he asked him why he was saying he has 4 sons. So just like I just said, Ajamil didn't watch television. So one should understand, it's not that they had television in that time. One should try to understand the meaning of the sentence. He never would hear the wrong thing. Not like, he was not like the 3 monkeys of Gandhiji. Gandhiji used to keep 3 monkeys. Soon there is Gandhiji's birthday, so it's natural to talk about him. He had 3 monkeys. One used to close his mouth, one used to close his ear, one used to close his eyes. But Ajamil was not like that. It's not that he had his eyes closed all the time. It's just that he didn't see or hear or speak anything of sense gratification or sinful. So Gandhiji used to have these 3 monkeys as his gurus. He used to keep with them. He had 3 little monkeys. This is called Danta. Actually, Ajamil was Danta. He had control over his senses. So this Ajamil was Danta. Satyavad. He used to always speak truth. Never he used to lie. He was so good. Satyavachan, Satyavadi also means whenever he would argue or talk, he would speak from the Shastra. That's also called Satyavachan, means to speak truth. To speak truth means to speak of what is in the Shastra, according to the Shastra. We should understand Ajamil was a Vaishnav before. He knew many Vedic mantras. These days people learn all the mundane songs by heart, but Bhagavad shlokas they don't want to even hear. And Suchi. Very pure he was. He used to follow the rules of taking bath and eating. Suchi. By the biggest meaning of Suchi means not to associate with another's woman. in this world, the greatest ashuddhi, greatest impureness is association of others woman. He never even in his dream associated with another woman. And at the same time, he was a great devotee of his mother and father. In other words, he used to serve his mother and father with great dedication. Every day he used to offer homa. He used to worship Agni Dev. In the previous age, this was the method. So he used to every day offer pure ghee to Agni Dev. Agni Dev is the mouth of Lord Vishnu. The Lord has two mouths. One is Agni and the other is the Brahmanas. So whatever is offered to the Agni, it goes to the Lord Vishnu, and whatever is fed to the Brahmanas, that goes to Lord Vishnu. And Lord says, I am not so satisfied by what's offered to me in the fire. I am more satisfied by what's offered to the Brahmanas and my devotees. Here, Briddha, in this verse, Briddha means Guru or Jnani. And in the other place, the elderly, sorry, forgot. Text number 60. So he saw Mada Grunit Netraya. By intoxication, that prostitute's eyes were rolling. She was not in her normal condition. She was like almost unconscious. She was standing. It's not that she fell down. She was standing, but she was embracing this Shudra. And Yamadutas are explaining his condition, Mattaya. She was so almost unconscious that her sari, her cloth, was loose, and she did not even know. She was so drunk. Vish Lathanivya means she was so out of it, her clothes were falling off, and she was embracing the Shudra. Vyapetam. Vyapetam means Shudra. Total Shudra. He had no, he was totally fallen Shudra. Nirapatrapam. He was very unembarrassed. So even this Shudra, this Ajamil saw this drishya, this vision, and he, even though this Shudra knew that he was being watched, he did not become straightened up. He had no shame. The Supreme Lord has given us a little shame, that he should maintain that shame at the right place. Just like on the elephant man has this little weapon to keep him under control. So, but this Shudra had no shame. Krindantam, Anugayantam, Hasantam, Manayantike. And that sometimes embracing her, sometimes moving a little bit back, he was singing, he was sometimes laughing. And in this world, sometimes, as you know, the singing in this world is sometimes the man is singing with the woman as the center, and sometimes the woman is singing for the man as being the center. And the center point is only lust.
उसके भावों का
These are the songs of this material world.
संघर्ष का वो वर्णन करता रहता है।
And the man, when he's singing, he sometimes he each other they when they sing, they're describing each other's beauty. So just like this he was doing.
करने लगते थे। यहाँ क्रीड़ा का अर्थ है चुंबन आलिंगन।
Krida, sometimes they were doing playing around. Here playing around means sometimes kissing.
हंस रहे थे तो वो हंस रहे।
Sometimes he was laughing, so he was laughing and she was laughing.
क्रीडंतम
So
गायंतम
Krin-
संतम अनयान।
Krinantam anugayantam hasantam anayatike.
उतना नहीं गा रही थी लेकिन शूद्र खूब गा रहा है।
She was drunk, she was not singing so much, but the Shudra was singing like anything, and sometimes holding
की बात है
her close by.
केवल मनुष्यों में भी नहीं है, पक्षियों तक भी।
This is not done only by humans.
मादा
Em-
पक्षी
Even we see this in bird.
उसके चारों ओर घूम करके नाच करके उसको मनाया करते।
We see that even in bird life and animal life, the male animal or bird is trying to entice the female.
करके नाच करके उसको
We see that among birds also.
बकरी को कई बार खुश करते।
We see that the male goat is so many times trying to please the female goat, just like humans.
पक्षी तक में है कि
This is not just in humans, this is also in birds and the beasts. So this happened once.
क्या के चारों
So this Brahman Ajamil,
के का अर्थ है मीका।
when he went to the forest to collect fruit on the order of his father, when he went to collect fruit, flowers and 2 kinds of grass called Samit and Kusha, on the way home he saw all this. He came across this Sudra and who was a very lusty 4th class man.
आजामिल जैसे जैसे देख रहा है वैसे वैसे जमराज के दूत वर्णन कर रहे हैं। जैसे
As Ajamil is watching, in the same way, the Yamadutas are describing, as if Yamadutas know by every second what is happening, is as if they're watching a movie. The Yamadutas are explaining in great detail. Number 61.
सहसैव विमोहितः विशेष करके
So, especially
वेश्या जब उसने अजामिल
this
शूद्र
Shudra,
शूद्र के बाहों में उस वेश्या को देखा,
when Ajamil saw,
बाह से
when he saw this prostitute in the arm of the Shudra,
की बाहों में
he saw one arm he had around the prostitute, and
काम कार से काम वासना बढ़ाने वाला
and he had this Shudra, his arm was decorated with turmeric powder mixed with chandan, kasturi, all these things to smell nice. He had put
उसकी बाहों में लेप किया गया था,
things on his arm to
पकड़ा।
embrace, to incite the lusty desires of the prostitute.
उस वेश्या को काम लिपते न बाहुना परिरंभितां, परिरंभितां का अर्थ है आलिंगितां। शूद्र अपने
Kam liptena bahuna pari
बाहों से
ramitam.
उस वेश्या को
So when
इसको देख करके
when
मन सहसा
when Ajamil saw how this Shudra had embraced this prostitute with his arm decorated in this way, his heart suddenly, with all Ajamil, with all those good qualities, suddenly his heart, lusty desires in his heart were awakened, and he felt in his heart, I also want to be just like this man. Yamadutas are saying, Jagama Hricha Yavasham,
के वश में हो
that he became under the control of his lusty desires which were dormant in his heart.
दृश्य देख करके जग जाए।
When lusty desires are dormant in the heart, by seeing a certain seen, these lusty desires are awakened.
हृदय में सोया रहता है। इस दृश्य को देख करके
Hricha means sleeping. These desires who were before sleeping in his heart, they were immediately suddenly awakened, and he felt that he had to be like this man.
अपने जीवन को हीन मानने लगा।
And suddenly he considered his life to be so useless. He was a,
नहीं समझना चाहिए कि वो विवाह नहीं किया।
he was a brahmachari. Doesn't mean that he wasn't married.
स्त्री के साथ जैसे
He was married, but he was living with his wife the way a married person should.
सारी जैसे
Actually, a householder is also a brahmachari if he follows the rules and regulations. So this Ajamil was a brahmachari, but just by seeing this Shudra and prostitute, he suddenly decided he wanted to be like this Shudra.
इसके साथ रहना चाहिए। इसी में जीवन के साथ रखता है। इसको विशेष मोह कहते हैं।
One should
क्या होता है? भ्रम। वास्तव में संसार के किसी भी रूप में
one should be satisfied with one's wife.
कोई सुख नहीं है। भगवान ने गीता में कहा है कि यही सब स्पर्शजा भोगा
Actually, there is no
आद्यंतवंत को
real happiness
न तेषु रमते बुधा।
in
हे कौनते, इस संसार में जो इंद्रियों के संस्पर्शज भोग हैं
in this sense gratification. Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita.
करने वाले हैं ना, वो सुख नहीं।
Actually,
और आज मिलते हैं कल नष्ट।
what we get
ये क्षण भर नहीं नष्ट।
from our senses, it's there one moment, in the next moment it is gone.
विद्वान पुरुष इसमें नहीं रमता।
The Vidwan person, the intelligent person does not
बहुत स्पष्ट
in,
कह रहे हैं। संसार का कोई भी भोग है, आज मिलता है 10 मिनट के लिए,
sorry.
1 घंटे के लिए, 2 दिन के लिए,
So
अच्छा लगता है।
any kind of enjoyment of this world we may get for a day or 2 days or a moment.
नहीं, में दुख नहीं है, बल्कि
It is
की माँ है।
it is
दुख को
the giver,
देने वाले हैं संसार।
it is the mother of dukh.
लेकिन
Sa-
अजामिल को
Sansparsha yoga, the senses of the objects of sense gratification,
पर्दा आवरण
to engage in them is the mother of distress. They themselves are not distressed, but by engaging in them, this distress takes its birth.
कि हारमोनियम किधर है, ढोलक किधर है, कौन किधर बैठा है, पढ़ नहीं सकता। तो वैसे ही जब संसारिक आवेश व्यक्ति में हो जाता है कि यही सुख है, यही जीवन की सफलता है, तो भगवान कृष्ण की भक्ति आदि तिरोहित हो जाती है।
So when one comes to one understand that this sense gratification is the goal of life, is everything, then he does not want to engage in devotional service. Srila Prabhupada has written so many purports.
पहले एक दृश्य को देख करके एक अजामिल
Many times Prabhupada says, many years ago, by seeing one Shudra and one prostitute, one Ajamil fell down.
इसीलिए मनुष्य को बहुत सावधान रहना चाहिए। इस तरह
And
से बहुत से
in this age, there is so many pictures like this to be seen at every moment in books, in magazines, in television.
बहुत तरह के
So we should avoid engaging our senses in these. It is more dangerous now because this kind of thing is seen everywhere.
मूर्ति जानकर
One
प्रशांत महासागर को देखने की इच्छा हो गई। मैं रथ यात्रा में से निकल करके कुछ दूर चल करके
one time at going to see Rath Yatra, I decided to go and take darshan of the great ocean, and a few kids were standing around me and they were laughing. I was meditating on the ocean. I had no idea what was going on around me, but these boys were laughing.
तो मेरी दृष्टि नीचे तरफ
when these
नग्न स्त्रियां और पुरुष सोए हैं बाजू।
when these boys were laughing, then I came to my senses and I looked around on the ground. Everywhere there were these almost naked men and women were lying around. They had no shame, but I became so embarrassed how I can go around them to get out of here. I was feeling so ashamed. So quickly I got out of there and went back to Rath Yatra.
समुद्र भगवान की विभूति है।
This is
बात भी जाते हैं यहाँ तो समुद्र को प्रणाम करते हैं।
even today when we go, whenever we see the great ocean, we should offer obeisances.
उधर मैं देखा हजारों हजारों लोग
But there I saw thousands and thousands of people. I think this was Los Angeles Rath Yatra. And the women were wearing only kopin. This is the situation.
लिखे हैं इस प्रसंग में
I was so embarrassed.
पश्चिम देशों में इस तरह से लोग रह रहे
And Prabhupada has told us that in Western countries, this is how people live.
हैं। अजामिल ने
So Ajamil saw this drishya.
फिर भी उसने कोशिश किया
He tried very hard to control himself,
अपने मन को रोकने
to control his mind. He tried
आत्मनात्मा
number 62.
सप्तम यथा श्रुतम। जहाँ तक उसे वैदिक ज्ञान
As far as he remembered the Vedic instructions,
तक उसका धैर्य
and as far as he had his control, he really tried to control his mind.
मन भ्रम में पड़ा मोह में
He,
तो सोचने लगा
he, sta- he started to think, oh my God, I'm a Brahman, I'm married, I have mother and father. Why am I thinking like this? I should not even see another woman. I'm falling down, I'm falling down. So with the help of
साक समाधातु मधु
Na,
मदन वे
na sashak samadhatum
काम ने इसके मन को
mano madan vepitam. But Kamdev was agitating
समाधातु
his mind. Even though he tried to restrain his mind so much, this madan vepitam, his mind was agitated by cupid or lusty desire.
पहले मनुष्य को ये सोचना चाहिए कि वो देखो मैं इतने बड़े पिता का पुत्र हूँ।
If somebody happens to see a bad sight like this, one should try to think, I am a brahmachari, I am coming from this kind of family, I have mother, father, a good wife, I should not engage my senses in this way. One should try to control his mind. So according to that, he really tried to his yatha sattvam yatha shrutam, means as far as possible, yatha sattvam yatha shrutam.
शास्त्र ज्ञान का स्मरण करना
He's trying to remember the instruction of his spiritual master of celibacy, brahmacharya, not to even see another woman. He was really trying hard.
को नियमितुम न
Samadhatum
को कंट्रोल
sashaka,
बहुत
trying to restrain. These days people don't even try to restrain what they will control. Instead, they try to see more and more such scenes. They go out of their way to make arrangements to see such scenes at movies and etc. So, if one does not even try to restrain, that is not possible.
तन निमित्त
Number 63. Tan nimitta,
निमित्त बन गया
caused by the sight of that Vaishya,
रूपी ग्रह से वो ग्रस्त हो गया।
by this Kam Rupi Graha, it was like,
स्मर व्याज
it was as if he was caught by an eclipse.
ग्रह से ग्रस्त हो गया। आप लोगों ने देखा हो
Sometime you have seen,
कोई व्यक्ति
suddenly,
यदि बात रोग से पीड़ित हो जाता है या उसे भूत लग जाता है
suddenly if somebody gets attacked by a ghost or a sudden disease, he becomes so different from his real person. Especially if he gets attacked.
तो सैकड़ों लोगों को देख
We have seen thousands of people like this.
के ग्रस्त हो जाता
They become attacked and they speak all kinds of nonsense.
है। काम भी बहुत बड़ा ग्रह
This lust is also like a great graha, eclipse.
काम के द्वारा ऐसा पकड़
He
उपमा देते हैं कि जैसे सूर्य और चंद्रमा
he got caught by
और उनका प्रकाश
such
जाता है, उसी तरह से
a sight of her that some people say that it is like a great eclipse.
तेज चला जाता है, ज्ञान चला
One who gets caught by such eclipse like lusty desire,
चेतना चली गई,
they forget their real position. Vichetana, having completely forgotten his real position, he felt like he was dead. He was not like his previous self.
उसको अपने परिवार की, अपने पिता की,
He did not remember his family, his father, his being a Brahmana, nothing. He forgot.
यदि हमारे गांव के लोग क्या
He forgot his real position.
लोग क्या कहेंगे, हमारे
After seeing the sight of this prostitute, he forgot he could not even think anymore what people will say, what the society will say, what I will say to my wife. Totally he forgot. It was as if somebody is attacked by a ghost. They cannot be their own self. So he was in the same condition.
वृंदावन दास
So in Vrindavan, there was one devotee called Vrindavan Das. He got attacked.
बहुत उत्पाद करता था वृंदावन।
He used to do
वृंदावन रोड पर खड़ा होकर
He's-
के और मंदिर में ढेला मारता,
he used to stand on Vrindavan road and he used to throw stones at people. He used to do crazy things.
कहते थे कि महाराज आपका शिष्य ऐसे कर रहा है,
And then they used to come to me and say, Maharaj, your disciple is doing like this, he's gone crazy.
मैं बाद में पूछा,
Then after I asked him,
दिल्ली मंदिर में रहता,
he used to live in Delhi temple as a pujari.
थोड़े काल तक हुआ था उसको।
For a little while he was like this.
तो मैं केवल पूछा कि वृंदावन में बताओ, हम लोग तुमको मार रहे थे,
So we really beat him up and he became free from this ghost. So later on I asked him,
ऐसे जो व्यक्ति
do you remember? We were beating you up, do you remember? He said no, doesn't remember anything. And now he's back to normal.
इतना काम ग्रह से
So when one is totally eclipsed by lusty desires, like Ajamil,
मेरी ये इज्जत है,
he had completely forgotten everything, just like this devotee who was attacked. He could not remember. He was just dead.
ताम एव मनसा ध्यान
Instead, he was tam eva manasa dhyayan.
करता रहता,
Instead, he was only thinking of that prostitute. Tam eva means certainly only of her.
वो घर पर आ गया,
He came home.
घर पर आकर के
He came home.
लिया था, पिताजी के सामने रखा,
He put all the flowers and everything in front of his father, the fruits, flowers, kusha grass, etc. He put in front of his father,
पिताजी ने पूछा,
and father said, "Okay, go take bath." He went to take bath,
और नहा करके जब पूजा के लिए बैठ,
and when he's after taking bath, when he sat down to do his puja,
मना हमने
he could not concentrate. In his mind, he was meditating only on that same prostitute.
वो मनसा ध्यान, बिल्कुल उसी का
Tamev manasa dhyana, only her. He didn't have to think of her. When we sit down to meditate of Krishna, we have to put some force to think of him. But he was naturally only meditating on the prostitute. He left his dharma as a devotee. He forgot his duties, that he has to clean the house, serve his guru, serve the brahmanas. He didn't sleep on time. He didn't eat on time. He could not even sleep. Therefore, Yamadutas are saying, Swadharma dviraramaha. He completely seized his regulative principles. Just by seeing this scene only once, such a great personality, he left everything. All his duties towards the community, towards the demigod, the Supreme Lord, his devotional activities, his parents, he forgot.
पता लगाया,
So,
दूसरों लोगों से पूछा,
they asked,
कि अमुक जगह पर
so,
शिष्या
So he went out of the house and he went in the same place where that Shudra and prostitute were embracing, and he started asking around, where does that woman live? Where does that woman live? So he went to see this. He finally found where she lived. And she said, I won't come and live with you. I can sometimes see you. And you have to pay me. But he brought her to his house. It is said twice, Tameva Manasa Dhyayan and Tameva Toshmaya Yamas. Means, certainly only her. Tameva Yamas means certainly only her to satisfy. He brought her to her house and he tried to satisfy only her. And all the money he got from his father's hard labor, he gave it all to the prostitute. Gramaya Pitre Yarthena Yavata. All the earth means all the money that his father had gotten by his hard labor, he gave to the prostitute. Whatever that prostitute would want to be happy, immediately he would bring that for her. Manoramay Kamay. Kamay means lusty desire. So whatever her heart would desire for sense gratification, he would not see any hard work in getting whatever she wanted to give, so that she would be satisfied. He gave up all his Brahminical activities to satisfy this prostitute. Yatha prasideta tatha toshayamas. Whatever agya, whatever instruction she would give, immediately he will do to satisfy her. And when his father's money finished, it will be explained later on. But by hook or by crook, he would get money to satisfy her. He will steal, he will kidnap, he would lie, and he'd gamble. These four things. So when father's money finished, he started to do this. 88 years he remained in the aradhana of these prostitutes. So Yamadutas are speaking like this in great anger. In great anger, they are describing all his activities that he did for 88 years. We have got this human form of life to satisfy the Supreme Lord, but giving up the Supreme Lord, this Ajamil was trying to satisfy this prostitute. These days we see to decorate the men is very few things, but to decorate the women, they are unlimited things. In the corner there's some shop, beauty parlor they say in India. All kinds of things to decorate the women. He says, to color, to paint the nails, to paint the lips, to paint the eyes, so many things. And humans, the men that try to supply these things to their women, they think themselves to be very successful. Just they think that they're like the demigods.
हमारे कहने का आशय यह नहीं
In other words, I'm not trying to say you should not supply these things to your wife.
सजा कर रखने का तो शास्त्र
It is
को अपने को सजा कर रखने
the women, the married women should keep themselves decorated
के पति का चित्त और
so that her husband's heart will not go to some other woman. It's the dharma of any woman as a wife to keep herself decorated and looking very beautiful for her husband.
वेश्या को कोई
But
चालू करे
when someone starts to decorate a prostitute,
खाने के लिए आती है अपनी पत्नी होती है
if it's your
पति के प्रति हमदर्दी हो
if it's your own wife, she has feelings towards her husband. She knows this is my husband. She will not demand such things from her husband that she knows that he will kill himself to supply her. She will never ask. She has love toward her husband. But prostitute never considered him to be her pati dev, her husband. She had thousands of men before him.
एक स्त्री पति की हो जाती है तो जीवन भर पति की सेवा
We have seen
पति इतना
in our culture, one girl becomes married to a wife. She has never seen another man before, and the whole life she serves this man as a husband, and the husband is totally satisfied with her, and
फाइनेंशियल स्टेटस
and she never demands get me this, get me that, beyond her husband's financial situation. She knows how much money her husband has. Not just she knows, she keeps all his account.
अगर हमें 200 की साड़ी से काम चला
She knows that if her husband doesn't have 1,000 rupees, and if she can manage with 200 rupee sari, she will be satisfied with 200 rupee sari. She has affection towards her husband. So, for a man to stay with his wife is a very good thing. One should be satisfied with his wedded wife.
विशेष करके गाँवों में हमने देखा
Especially in the villages.
गरीब आदमी
We have seen in the villages especially how affectionately these poor people live together. Whole day he is working in the fields and she is working in the house, and they have hardly anything except a simple hut and food to live. But there is so much affection. What this prostitute can give satisfaction to this Ajamil? Only she will always demand. Prostitute cannot satisfy anybody. She will only demand and demand and demand. It is said, this prostitute is the fire of Madan, of Kam.
डाला जाता है एक मतलब जब ये कुंड है आग है
She is like Yagya Kund,
या लोगों की जवानी और
in which a prostitute is a Havan Kund, is the fire, like fire in the fire sacrifice, in which the unintelligent men, they give all their youth and money, just like in the Havan Kund, in Yagya we throw grains. In unintelligent men, they throw their whole youth and all their money into the fire, lusty fire of the prostitute, desires of prostitute.
वेश्या के चक्कर में पड़ करके कौड़ी के लिए मुहताज हो गए
Generally, so many times we see that the very, very wealthy persons, their children, they fall prey to this prostitute and lose every penny of their parents.
भर्तृहरि में तो यहाँ तक लिखा है जैसे पिकदानी होती है सब लोग उसमें थूकते हैं उस तरह से वेश्या है पता नहीं जुआ नीच
Acharyas have said, just like there's a spitting bowl where people have spit when they eat pan in India, the prostitute is just like that. They're simply kissing the spitting bowl of others. So this is the condition of persons who are attracted to prostitutes.
मुख को केवल 3 व्यक्तित्व में है ऐसा शास्त्र में लिखा गया है एक तो माँ
That person is fortunate who's married to a girl who has been kissed only by 3 persons. When she was small, she was kissed by mother and father, and after that, only one man, her husband. All glories to that kind of a woman. Apart from her husband, she has never seen anybody. In this way, Yamadutas here are describing Ajamil's sinful activities. To live in Gita, Bhagavan says, Hey Bharatvanshi, Arjun, the activities that are to satisfy me, that is religion, that is dharma. One who is satisfied with his wife is very pleasing to me. To go to a prostitute is sinful itself, but much more Mahabhayankar, much more dangerous sin is to go to another man's wife. Prostitute is a prostitute, but to go to another man's wife is million times more sinful. So in this way, all of father's wealth he gave to this prostitute, and that prostitute never once desired that please take me to the temple or please give me something spiritual. She would only ask for very great sense gratification things, very expensive things. Or always she will harass him, and she never had a little pity that this Pandit is becoming harassed and that he's killing people or that he's gambling or murdering. She had nothing to do with it. It didn't affect her at all. She would keep on demanding. So then Yamaraja's Duta said, this is not all she did. Look at this, number 65. Yamaraj Duta says that this victimized Brahmana Ajamil engaged in sinful acts in her association, and he even gave up the company of his very beautiful young wife, who came from a very respectable Brahmana family. In front of the fire sacrifice, Brahmanas, in front of his spiritual master, in front of the parents, he was married, but he just gave her up. This was so condemned. And she was very young and very beautiful. And even this sinful Brahmana gave up. Ajamil, when his story goes like this, when Ajamil brought this prostitute to his house, this prostitute didn't know that he had a young wife. So when she came to the house, she understood that he has a wife. First of all, she said, who is this? He understood she is his wife. She asked whether she will live in the house or I will. If she wants to keep her. If you want to keep her, then why did you bring me? Swear ripang vidhi.
तुमको जिसको रखना है
The lustful glance of the prostitute pierced the intelligence of this Ajamil, and he decided to get rid of his wife.
बहुत स्त्रियों में जलन होती है
Women,
उसका तो कहना ही नहीं
as it is, women get jealous if a man has another wife, and what to speak of her? She is a prostitute.
जब तक इसको
She said, you brought me to your house, I will not eat until you get rid of her to the house.
नहीं रहेगी तो उसका प्राण ही निकल जा रहा है तो कहा नहीं रहे तुम रहो
And as soon as he heard this prostitute will not stay, his life force started to leave his body. So he said, no, you stay, I will get rid of my wife.
बहुत दिन हो गया नैहर से
So he told his wife, it's been a long time since you visited your parents, why don't you go visit your parents and stay there?
हमारा विवाह आपके साथ हुआ है
And she said, why? I'm married to you, how I can go back to my parents? Whatever it is, I have to stay here. I don't even mind living with this woman, but I have to live here. I cannot go back to my father. I am married to you. But he said, no, you go.
ऐसी स्थिति आती है कहता है तुम हमें पसंद नहीं पड़ रही
In the end, he said, I don't like you.
एक कहावत है
You go to your father.
कोई पुरुष अपने पत्नी को छोड़ना चाहता था एक खाने बैठा तो
So,
पड़ोसी उसकी तरफ
one day, this man wanted to leave his wife. It's a story. So one day he sat down to eat. He said to his wife, you didn't put turmeric in the spinach? And she said, we don't put turmeric in the spinach. Then he said, you're a useless woman, you leave, I don't need you. So this is an excuse. Many times I've heard. One woman was telling me that she had a co-wife. The new one, oh my God, she said the new wife that came, she said, will this prostitute live in this house or will I live in this house? Women do not like to have a co-wife. This used to happen in the olden days. So this Vaishya, this prostitute, was talking exactly like that. Either she will stay or I will stay. So he somehow sent his wife to... So just by the glance of this prostitute, he sent his good wife to her father's house and wrote a letter that your wife is not behaving herself and she's becoming a very unchaste, bad girl, so you keep her. I cannot accept her as the wife. So sinful he was. Yatas tatas chopanaine. He used to bring dhanam. This rascal, although born in a Brahmin family, this rascal, bereft of intelligence because of this prostitute's association, earned money somehow or other, regardless of whether properly or improperly, and used it to maintain the prostitute's sons and daughters. Here it is very important to note that Yamadutas are saying the prostitute's sons and daughters. That goes to show that the persons that he was maintaining are not all the children. They were not all his children. They were prostitutes' sons and daughters. So he had, most of the children were the prostitutes, and maybe one or two were his.